Well, Larry, it was interesting. We were talking about how a lot of people think that the women in this compound are victims. But when I was speaking to a lot of the local people here in San Angelo, they feel very differently. I spoke to mothers and grandmothers, and they told me they think these women need to take care of their children. Well, actually, I just found out that DPS stopped their investigation. They're finished with it. So we're hoping that tomorrow we're going to hear from the sheriff of El Dorado, as well as DPS investigators, about what they might have found out there. We're also planning to go a little closer to the compound. Well, hey, Robert, you won't believe what a difference a few minutes can make. I'm here in this spin room where right now it's relatively quiet. They're just cleaning everything up, but I want to show you what it was like just a few minutes ago. But first, let me show you what it's like through most of the night. Inside the auditorium here at St. Mary's University, it's still pretty quiet. They're not letting too many people in yet. Let's show you what the stage looks like. That's where Hillary Clinton will take the stage in just over an hour to start giving her speech. And as you said, she really needs to focus on Texas. A lot of U.S. money is being poured into the Kabul Military Training Center, where U.S. soldiers are training Afghan military members on how to fight. These are the streets State Department workers and other U.S. workers don't venture out onto anymore because of the recent spike in kidnappings, but these are the streets of Kabul. It's not just man-to-man combat here in Afghanistan. The earth is also the enemy.
Jenny Hoff of KXAN, were you in the courtroom?
I was in the auditorium, Larry, which is right next to the courtroom, and there were a lot of mothers in there as well as a lot of lawyers and media. They were watching that screen, wanting to hear every word the judge had to say, as well as the investigators. And I looked to the left of me at one point, and I saw several of those moms sitting in a row, and at some points they would put their heads in their hand. They looked like they were crying, especially when they heard names of these children pop up or names of their husbands.
Did any of the mothers yell out at any point when testimony was given?
They were absolutely calm the entire time. As I said, really the only action I saw from them was putting their heads in their hand. Now, this entire time, though, we've been curious, what do the men have to say? And at a few points, I walked over to them and I sat down and started talking to the men. Now, they didn't want to talk on camera, of course, at this time, but I did talk to one of the guys who told me, hey, he's just a rancher. He grows potatoes. He says he doesn't even know what this is all about. He's never been through something like this before. He told me they are all law-abiding citizens, and as long as they know the law, we tell them what the law is, they will follow it. And that's kind of a similar sentiment I heard when I spoke to the women. The women seem to be willing to concede to a few things. If the state will give them their children back, the women tell me they'll concede to whatever the state wants them to do, as long as it's something rational and it's a compromise they can come to together. There are so many people expected at this hearing tomorrow that the county has actually opened up another building outside of this courthouse to accommodate all of the media, the onlookers, and of course the people intricately involved in this case. Now, among that horde of people will be the women of the Yearning for Zion Ranch, the mothers of these children. And we spoke with them just a couple of hours ago to hear what they have to say on this eve of a hearing that will determine their children's fate. Down a long dirt road on the outskirts of El Dorado, you'll find the Yearning for Zion Ranch. And through the gates that until 2 weeks ago almost no one had entered, we found what is home to hundreds of Fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints followers.
The reason I brought my girls here was to be safe, a place where they could raise up and have freedom. And
the women who have been kept from the public eye and the outside world since they were born are now more than eager to see us. They say they'll make any sacrifice for their children who they are not allowed to see.
They told me that it would just be a minute. They told her, your mother's just going to be a minute.
Lori was allowed to be with her 6-year-old daughter in state custody for a few days. She's now at home with all of the women back on the compound, a noticeably empty stretch of land now that their children are gone.
She's never been abused. I've always been with her. She needs me.
But when it comes to the topic of abuse, in this case, allegations of minor girls forced into marriage and sex with older men, the women are still evasive. How old were you when you got married?
I was of age, 18, 19. I'm not married.
age is not really relevant because I've got 2 girls and they're 13 and 15, and they're not thinking married.
The women insist they are law-abiding, at least to God. But it's the law of the land they'll have to prove faith to at Thursday's hearing in order to bring their kids home. Now, although the women were evasive when it came to the age of marriages, they did vehemently deny that any abuse has ever taken place on the compound. They say, in fact, it's the opposite there. Meanwhile, another unique aspect of this case are all the hundreds of lawyers from across the state that are now here in San Angelo, and they are volunteering to represent these children tomorrow. Coming up tomorrow morning on Austin News Today, join us again. We will be right back here before that hearing bright and early, and we will speak with an Austin lawyer who is here representing a 4-year-old boy from that ranch. Live in San Angelo, Jenny Hoff, KXAN Austin News. They're just clearing up now, but early this afternoon, there was quite a sight here. Barack Obama spent about 5 hours attending 2 different events. First, he went to a private roundtable discussion with 4 San Antonio residents who have either been victim of predatory lending or the foreclosing crisis. He talked about his solutions for the housing crisis in this country. He then walked across the street to a town hall meeting that in reality felt a little bit more like a rock concert. After the usual fanfare and chanting, voters in San Antonio had a chance to address the senator directly.
Will you promise to help my family?
On the minds of many in this military town, the war in Iraq.
The first thing I do when I get into the White House is I will call in my Joint Chiefs of Staff and I will give them a new mission. It is time to bring our troops home.
Obama then answered questions on education, saying he would raise teacher pay, help college kids pay for tuition by giving them $4,000 a year in return for community service. And he would raise minimum wage every year.
If you work in this country, you should not be poor in this country.
But addressing his fans' questions isn't the toughest job this senator faces. It's beating an opponent who has history and historically solid support in the Lone Star State.
If you will organize and mobilize with me, we won't just win Texas. We'll win this nomination. We will win the general election. Together, you and I will change the country and change the world.
Now, his opponent, Hillary Clinton, was here in San Antonio more than 30 years ago helping register voters, so she does have a solid support in this state, but he is certainly building his own base. Meanwhile, he leaves from here, San Antonio. He's now headed to Houston for another event tonight. As for the other candidates, well, Hillary Clinton spent the day in Ohio, that's the other big state, voting on the March 4th primary. And as for the Republicans, McCain was in Wisconsin today. Of course, they held their voting, and Huckabee plans to be in Texas tomorrow. He's going to Plano, Houston, and in San Antonio. No doubt they're brave.
The only thing we can do is keep our eyes open. If it happens, it happens.
And strong.
We all signed up for this, and we're here to try to make this country a better place.
But even for soldiers who are trained to live in uncomfortable, dangerous, and life-threatening environments like Afghanistan, it can sometimes be too much.
I just want to hold my kids and my husband and see my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters, and just want to do that.
Lieutenant Pamela Klepak Tulensu is a mom of 3. And after only 9 weeks into her 1-year tour of duty in Kabul.
It's one of those things that you don't want to because it'll make it go slower, but I count them down one day at a time.
The loneliness is already overwhelming.
I think about my oldest daughter, her tender kisses on my cheeks. I think about my youngest daughter, her hands.
Pamela will spend the next 10 months here in a small room that acts as her office, her living space, and her escape from the streets outside. A palace, considering where she was just a few weeks earlier.
Whenever we first landed in country, we were living in tents, and we had to walk outside to go to the restroom in sand and our boots.
Her children and husband live in San Angelo, Texas. Her sister lives in New Braunfels. All have given her tokens of saints and prayers to protect her, and pictures to keep her involved in the lives she's missing.
I don't think they're worried because they don't really know, what's going on.
But what's going on is the most dangerous year Afghanistan has experienced since the U.S. waged war on the Taliban in 2001.
You go out on the streets here every day doing tactics training, convoy procedures. You don't know if you're going to come back or not, so you just hope.
Roadside bombs, shootouts, and abductions have taken the lives of 5,300 people this year alone. And the Humvees these soldiers ride in to complete their jobs, in Pamela's case to get to the hospitals she's helping rebuild, are the bombers' #1 target.
My biggest fear is not being able to go home to bed.